You're listening to Spiritual Growth Tools on the radio, helping you understand the blocks you have in your life to being happy, with a wide variety of guests to help you better understand the problems you're having in your own life. Whether you're depressed, poverty-stricken, suffering ill health, or confused about how to take the next step, discover products, services, and information that will enable you to grow with grace and address issues that are preventing you from happiness, health, or abundance. Go to spiritualgrowthtools.co.uk and find out what's holding you back.
Good evening, everyone, and you are listening to Spiritual Growth Tools on the radio, where we discuss spiritual growth, what that means, and how it can help you to move forward through the blocks that you have to health and happiness. I am your host, Caroline Nettle, and today's special guest is Clare Russell. Welcome, Clare.
Thank you, Caroline. I'm really glad to be here.
I'm so excited that you're here, Clare. So for those of my listeners that don't know who Clare is, she is an intuitive expert, qualified healer, coach, and sacred travel leader. She runs courses, tours, and events internationally on the subjects of intuition, the subtle energy body, transformative communication, and healing. She has written for national magazines such as Natural Health and Soul and Spirit. So today we're going to be discussing intuition plus intention equals synchronicity. So this is about tapping into your inner wisdom and conscious living. So what I wanted to start off today, Clare, was really, many of us who've been on this path for some while have, got to a stage now where we know what intuition is and how to live by it, but there was a time prior to that when perhaps life was a little more ugly. So that's one way of putting it anyway. So could you perhaps talk to us a little bit about how you got onto the path that's led to you to what you do today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that hindsight thing is always interesting in retrospect, and at the time it can be a bit strange actually going through that transition. For me, it was a transition from working in a fairly kind of high-powered corporate role in a marketing consultancy, which on an intellectual level I enjoyed. The people I worked with were really lovely, but now as I describe it, I don't think I would have had the words at the time, it felt narrow. Like it was just, I could see the ladder, it was going in this direction, and these were the steps that I would take. It was like, the 5-year plan was written, basically. And although I knew that wasn't my purpose, although I probably didn't know what purpose was, I didn't have that connection to it. I kind of thought about it as a phase in my life. At the same time, I didn't know what I wanted to go into. And so in my head at that time, it was like, well, how can I change if I don't know what I want to do?
Yeah.
So what happened was that as part of my work, I got sent to China.
Okay.
And I went and worked in China. And that was a huge liberation in many ways. Firstly, working in China at that time as a Westerner, most things you do are weird. So basically you can do weird things and it's okay. And all your friends back home are never going to hear about it. And all those expectations you have about yourself about being normal and not failing and all these things disappear. And so I decided to learn healing. And I felt energy coming out my hands. And it changed what I knew about what it was to be human. And that was my kind of step into the unknown, which led to me making the decision to take 2 years out and follow my intuition.
Wow, okay.
Basically. But that also had a massive healing journey with it, I should add. Yeah.
And again, that story sounds very similar. I was in international sales and I didn't know that I was unhappy. On the outside, I had a lot of money, a big house, I had lots of friends, I was always traveling. On the inside, I was like, this isn't enough. This doesn't fill me up. This doesn't get me to want to get up in the morning. But I didn't know that was true for me. So what did you do in the 2 years then?
Well, firstly, I think I really like what you said there. And for me, one of my commitments at that stage was to not just live on the surface of my life anymore and to deep dive in whatever that might hold. So what that meant for that 2-year period with that kind of actually almost implicit intention, it was a feeling, a sense of what I was living by, was that I was following a lot of leanings, pullings to different places in the world, to different people, where I basically, I went on my own healing journey, which also meant learning a lot of energy healing modalities such as Reiki, Theta, sound healing, Isis healing. I ended up taking a very deep personal journey in qualifying as a spiritual coach. That also is a very deep kind of transformational journey for me. And I think that richness of experience also it gives me a foundation to know so much of what people are going through at the moment in this massive time of transition.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with you there. I think it was interesting because before we came on air, I was saying in my unconscious state, so when I was in this money, power, greed kind of hamster wheel that I was in before I stepped off and started to work in the same way in healing, I was still going to Egypt, to the pyramids, to Machu Picchu, to all these really sacred sites, very spiritual sites, Teotihuacan and all these places, and just needing to be there and not really understanding why I was there. But I know that as I was sitting on the top of, the moon pyramid, for example, I was doing some healing, and it's really interesting to look back and think, wow, I did that even though I didn't really understand. And now that I am working a lot more consciously and a lot more intuitively, I would love to go back and see if it's different. Because So anyway, okay.
I think one of the things that shows me in your journey, and also in mine as well, very similar thing, I went to Tibetan Plateau, to Egypt, all these places, as holidays, really, without really having that sense of underneath, is that it's our natural way to be intuitive.
Yes.
It's naturally within us to respond to this deeper sensing and connection with everything around us and with ourselves. And some people, I think, are born with a very high level of that, naturally, a kind of inner awareness, and some maybe not so much, but it's still there regardless of whether we're aware of it. And when we're developing our intuition, we just heighten something which is already naturally within us.
Absolutely. And, one of the questions I get asked the most is, how can I hear my angels? And I think it's by stop listening to the ego, rather than you need to listen harder to the angels, because everybody has that. It's by giving less attention to the loud ego that we have in our heads that screams, you're never going to be able to hear that, and you can't, and you must be making that up, and all these things that prevent people, I think. So I think it's the same sort of thing that we're talking about. In order to trust your intuition, I think it's really important to get into the body. So it's really important to trust those gut instincts. A really significant one that happened to me when I was in Mexico. Just after I'd left my corporate job, I went and worked in Mexico for 3 months in a turtle conservation camp, and it was, no running water, no electricity, but we had wild horses and wild egrets and, turtles and pelicans. It was just phenomenal. We were coming back from Guatemala and Belize, and we were going to stay till the Sunday, and on the Thursday I just had this enormous, I have to go now, I cannot wait. And the two ladies that I was travelling with agreed, and we went to Puerto Vallarta. And the next day, the car that they all drove around with crashed, and 2 people died. And I would have been in that car. And I, whilst I pray for the people that died, it was awful because they were on their gap year. It was so loud in my head to leave. I can't explain it any other way than I just went, okay, I'm going to go. And sometimes we have to do that, even though it doesn't always make any sense. Because if I'd have stayed till the Sunday, it would have been nice and comfortable. My ticket was already paid for. I had to buy a new one, but. Yeah, there are times in your life, I think, when you get a really loud intuitive hit, and that was mine. And I thank the angels for allowing me to listen to that, because it would have been really, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you now had I not done that. So have you got any experiences like that where you've just had a massive hit and you've just followed it? I suppose, yeah. That was a dark question, wasn't it?
No, I think I definitely think that what we're taught to do is to follow, we're taught several things. Firstly, we're taught that rationality and logic are the antithesis of intuition and spirituality and all that is unknown. So we need to get rid of that and realise that actually our intuition, our inner knowing, our active knowing, rather than those beliefs which we're told from the outside, will use everything at its disposal to talk to us. And one of those aspects at our disposal which is so powerful is our body. Absolutely. Our body wisdom is huge. And really a very important part of the intuition is fine-tuning our ability to sense into our experience in every moment. So the more we get to listen to our experience of life through our body, through our emotions, through all of our subtle senses, the more we're going to become aware of and listen to our intuition. I kind of describe it to people as like, we're sitting here, we'll feel our bum on the chair, we have that sense of feeling. You're hearing my voice as we're here on the radio. You've probably also got a sense of light and images of the room around you. You might also have even a smell or a taste in the air or something. If you've just had some food or if you've got some incense burning, you're experiencing life from a full 360-degree perspective through all of your senses. And that is what your intuition is using all of the time to speak to you. So the more that we can expand our awareness of the full kind of sources of information that are coming into us, the more our intuition has to work with. And I was wondering actually if I might just do something very quickly here on the call.
Absolutely.
Because I would love that all of you who are listening to this get to listen to this from the place of your intuition speaking to you through this call.
Okay.
And one of the things that can support us with that is just to presence ourselves in being here. So as you're listening to this now, if you just take a moment to be a little bit more still, be a little bit more quiet, and just connect with your breath. And allow yourself to take a couple of deeper breaths down into your belly. So as you breathe in, you feel your belly expand. And as you breathe out, your belly just drops slightly. And whatever your day has been, you can just say that in a letting go or thanks for the experience you've had, and just allowing yourself to be here now. And I'm going to share a statement of intent, and as it feels appropriate for you, you can follow it in your own inner voice. I welcome all of who I am here now. I welcome my full being into this moment. I invite all beings of the highest vibration of love and light to join me, to join us. And together we create a sacred space. A space to be, and just enjoy the space, being connected to your breath. And have that inner sensing, knowing that as you listen to this show today with Caroline and I, that you're listening to your inner voice, your inner wisdom, that it's going to pick out little things that are important for you, highlight them in whatever way it's going to show itself to you, and be open just to trust that.
Thank you. That was beautiful and really grounding somehow. I just felt like I was really connected into the earth as soon as I was in that space. So yeah, I certainly feel much calmer. So thank you. And I'm going to share a cheeky little trick that I use for intuition, and I can't remember when I started this, but it's been a good 30, 40 years that I've been doing it. So I take a coin. If I have to make a yes-no decision, and I say heads is red, tails is black. If I want black and red comes up, I know immediately that I don't want that. And if it's what I want, I go, oh yeah, okay. So it's like a really good external way for me to. Did you understand that? Did I say it right?
Okay.
So if it ends up the one I wanted, I'm like, oh yeah. Okay. And if it's the one I don't want, I'm like, oh. So I know that I don't want or I do want it. So, and I've bought many things that way and chosen destinations that way, and I use it all the time. So, and I think it's funny to see that lots of different people have lots of different ways of tuning in. But yeah, I would really like to talk a little bit more about the body and how you would suggest to someone who's perhaps a little bit divorced from their body, how they can, a few things that they can do to get into that wisdom of the body.
Okay. Firstly, it's on a daily basis becoming more aware of your embodied experience. So, for example, lovely, beautiful things to do can be imagining, experiencing your day from the perspective of your feet, or from the perspective of your hands, or whatever it might be. We have this bizarre concept that our consciousness and who we are lives in our brain, or we don't even realise we have that concept. It's just, it happens. So that when we say, what would it be like to experience my day as my feet, it sounds weird, but why would it sound weird? Because it's still part of us that we're embodying at this point in time. So that can be an interesting little playful thing to do in the day. What I would say is that intuition is all about listening. That's what it is. And there's a very beautiful phrase from Paul Tillich, I believe. It says, the first duty of love is to listen. And so when we are listening to our body, to our emotions, to our thoughts, which really is the starting of untangling the reactivity of the ego to drop into the soul space and listen to the intuition, we want to be listening with love and empathy. And the best way to describe that is, imagine if a very good friend came to you and they had something that was quite important they wanted to share with you, and they were quite emotional about it. Then imagine how you would listen to them. You would listen to them with such presence, with such warmth, with such compassion, and just wanting to be there for them. And that's how we want to be with ourselves. Now, what often happens when we're in a place where we want intuition on something, it's normally an area of our life or subject matter where we perceive that there's a problem, that we're not doing things right, that we've mucked up in some way, that we're in danger of failing, that whatever it might be. And we're quite often in judgment of ourselves, which immediately separates us from what is trying to communicate with us. Which is why when I do the presencing, what we do, we invite all of who we are here now. We don't exclude any part of us. We welcome all of who we are. And from that place of wholeness and from that place of acceptance, then we have such a much more freedom, a good basis to start to listen to ourselves. And I will, perhaps a little bit later in the show, also take you through your own experience of starting to listen through your body and through all your subtle senses, which is a really great way to start listening to your intuition.
Fabulous, yeah, I look forward to that. I wanted to add after what you said there, is it's also very often when we're trying to listen to what we should do or what we think we need to do, we're highly stressed. So I have slightly different wordage, but I always tell people to relax, relax and breathe into your belly and just relax, because when you're in a state of stress, your brain can't think logically or can't, in any way listen or can't help you. So, yeah, I think, and the thing is, the average person, in our society is highly stressed all the time. Their body is overcharged. They've got this real, they probably don't sleep well enough. They drink too much coffee. They go out late night drinking and smoking, and they work really hard. And, we've forgotten, haven't we, that, many years ago, we went to bed when it got dark and we woke up when it got light, which in the winter, when the body is healing, is often 10 hours, especially if you live high up north. And we survive on, sometimes drug-induced sleep. And it's just, I think one of the things that our society does the worst is look after our own bodies.
I'm actually fascinated by stress.
Okay. Sorry. I felt myself going into a bit of a rant there, so I'm glad you interrupted.
I'll tell you why. So firstly, yes, I do think it's important to create a place of stillness, and that is the first place to listen to your intuition. And great ways to do that are through your breath. Breathing in and out of your heart is a wonderful place to start, because your heart is the place of resonance in your body. It's the place where you'll most quickly bring yourself into sync. And when we're in that place of synchronicity, resonance, harmony, we have an ability to listen to our intuition. Now, I actually offer something called Live Stress-Free consultations.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Because I'd be fascinated by this word stress. I used to go to different parties and things, with a lot of people working still in consultancy environment, and they'd always come up to me and say, "Oh, I'm so stressed. Maybe I should just go and have a massage," or something like that. and to start with, I wasn't really understanding, because what I was hearing was the massage is not going to touch it, what they're talking about. And I understood that when they said stressed, they actually just had a blanket term for a number of symptoms, but with no knowledge of the cause.
Absolutely.
And that actually stress, in my opinion, doesn't really exist. Okay. Now, does anxiety exist? Raised heartbeats, unhealthy eating habits, living off caffeine, which all then affects your relationships with your family, with your friends, with your work? Yes, absolutely, that exists. Is it helpful to call it stress and label it as that? Actually, no. I would say that it is your incredibly intelligent, emotional, physical system trying to talk to you and give you a lot of signs, which are the things that you get before you move into synchronicity. A lot of signs, putting its hands up in the air and waving, because we haven't heard the call of the intuition. And out of that comes these louder voices that says, "Please listen, please listen." And so in those sessions, what we do is try and unwind that tangle of different symptoms to find out what's at the bottom, so that we can unravel it and go back to harmony, which I think is the goal of us all. I think, as you were saying, that harmony is actually our natural state. I believe that to be true as well. And that we have that possibility of really expanding into harmony individually and collectively, and that really excites me.
And I agree, and one thing that I notice when I'm a body talk practitioner, and with body talk we talk to the body and we find out what the body wants to do, and it's incredible how many people come in really seriously dehydrated or adrenal fatigue, which means that they've been the non-stress word stressed, but I always say to people, if your car runs out of petrol, it stops. If your body runs out of adrenaline, it moves on to something else and you start causing damage. But we just keep going, and then one day we fall over and it's called something else because the body's snapped and manifested a disease because I'm not listening to my body's wisdom. I'm not listening when it's waving at me. And then they come to me and they say, "Oh, it's really awful." And I say, "Yes, okay, well, let's just look at, so here we need to deal with your rage, and here we need to deal with your, the abandonment you felt as a child, and really quickly it goes from being, as you say, a combination of lots of different symptoms to, I just feel calmer." And I think that's, the power of some energy work. I love that part of my job. I just love seeing people, letting go of the stress, whatever we're calling it now. But I think, in this age when there is a massive awakening of consciousness and a really huge wave across the globe of people starting to say, that's not okay, and we want peace and harmony, and love is the answer, and all these things. I just wonder what the next 20 years is going to be about, and how different it's going to be if we were to meet in 20 years and discuss the last 20 years. I wonder, because it seems when I learned to be a body talk practitioner in 2005, everybody thought I was crazy. I mean, absolutely crazy. And there was a little bit of Reiki and there was a little bit of massage, but not very much. Now, my goodness, you go to these fairs and there's, hundreds of different, modalities and therapies. And my opinion is just go to whoever you're drawn to, because their energy probably matches yours, and, they'll be able to help you with your issues. But, so, I just get asked this a lot, so I'm going to ask it to you because you're an intuitive expert. So many people say to me, "But I just can't hear. I just don't know what my body's telling me. Or they don't even know that they're supposed to be listening." Do you know what I mean? So if you had someone in front of you now who literally didn't know how to tune into their intuition, how would you help them?
Often people will say, "Oh, I can't hear that," or "I'm unaware of that," etc. But actually, it is something they're already using in their everyday life. I'm just going to give a very quick example because it happens so quick in everyday life, we might not even notice it. So I have the privilege of actually Caroline and I sitting together tonight. We're in the same space, which is lovely. And I arrived, and Caroline and there was this beautiful kind of like golden yellow diary sitting on the desk. I thought, that's a really beautiful coloured diary. I don't really have a diary for this year. And then Caroline came down and sat later and said, oh, I wondered if you wanted that. Wouldn't it be, I was, if it might be something you're interested in. And so there was a perfect synchronicity and an inner intuition, which might be completely passed by in that person's life. So one of the things we first do is just getting in touch with the fact that this is natural. We need to allow ourselves just to let go of a few things as well. One of those is letting go of right and wrong. That I'm going to get this right or wrong, this answer, etc. One of the things about our intuition is we have to be allowing ourselves to step into the unknown, allowing ourselves to be in a place of, I don't know what the answer is, but I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to find out. Actually, this is how the world works. We only know about 5% of the world. So if we stay in that place of knowing what is right and wrong, we only stay in 5% of our lives, actually.
But so often people are so scared of what they don't know. And yet I read a wonderful poem which was effectively along the lines of, but every time you breathe out, you die. And every time you breathe in, we are always in change. We are always in the unknown. And of course, my favourite line is, how do you make God laugh? Tell him your plans. It just, we can control. And this is so often the problem, right and wrong, and I'm right and you're wrong. I used to, you have to agree with me, and if you didn't, I would beat you up with my opinion. And I must have been horrific to have a conversation with. Now it's like, oh, well, that's different to what I think, and that's okay. But that took a lot of learning. But going back to what you were saying, I think we're so frightened of what we don't know.
So there is a sense of, I suppose, courage with that as well. But I would see it as an openness. What I encourage people is to be in the hypothesis of seeing where this goes.
Okay.
The hypothesis of just letting down their judgment or the right or wrong for a little while. You can pick it back up later. That's no problem. We don't mind that. But in this moment, you're going to allow the curiosity of your inner child to go out and play and have a little look around. In this world of intuition, there is no failure or success. There is a listening, an exploration, a curiosity, and an openness. So we come from that mindset of seeing, well, what's here? I don't know what's going to be here. This is new. That's interesting. And from that base, it allows a doorway. Now, what helps that doorway is some of the things we've already been talking about on this call of enabling spaciousness on all the other levels. So enabling spaciousness and relaxation in the body. So it can be very nice just to be doing some gentle stretches, movement. I know for me, if I've been wanting to access my intuition but doing quite focused work all day, I'll dance. I'll just open up, relax my body. I'll also work to energize my energetic body, and I'll do that through certain breathing techniques which work with opening my heart and my crown especially, but also then down into the earth and that connection and grounding. And I'll also just bring a little smile to my lips and a little bit of appreciation or humour or both, depending on what your day's been like. And from that place of a little bit more settled and gentleness, then we can go in. Shall we maybe explore that now?
Why not? Yeah, perfect.
So hopefully you're starting to get a feel of that place as we're talking. I'd like you now, if you would like, just to shut your eyes and connect with your breath. And as you do, breathe or imagine and feel or sense yourself breathing in and out of your heart. So you're breathing in all that nourishes you. And as you breathe out, you're just allowing yourself to let go of anything you don't need right now. Even if your inner critic is very, very loud during the day, just for 5 minutes or so now, you're going to allow that voice to quieten and be open to what else might come in. The heart, the center of our being. As we breathe in and out of the heart, we start to bring resonance to our field, to our body, to our emotions. And we can also just open the doorway to the essence of who we are, your spirit, your soul, your sense of beingness. That spaciousness that comes not from knowing the answer, but from asking the question, who am I right now? And being a witness to that answer. A witness to the experience of that. And so from this place of connection, just like you to see if there may be a theme, an area of your life, a subject matter that you would like to receive some intuition on, to listen to your inner tutor, your inner wisdom. And this may come to you in different ways, a sense or a feel, an image. Trust whatever comes to you. It might be a general inquiry into how can I connect more with my intuition. Whatever comes to you, trust that. And you're just going to be open to explore this theme, this subject. And I'm going to guide you through a process of listening to all of who you are. And you can simply listen to these questions and then allow a space and see what drops in. And if at any time you feel slightly distracted or need some form of anchor, come back to your breath. Just come back to simply being aware of your breath, or if you also like, breathing in and out of your heart. So as you consider this theme, this question, this area of your life, just imagine if this area of your life had a colour, or had a shape, or had an image, what would it look like? Breathe with that question. This area of your life had a colour, a shape, an image associated with it. What would it look like? Just breathe and be open to whatever comes to you, however it comes to you. Even if the question sounds very strange, just be in that place of hypothesis, curiosity, and connected to your breath. Being with whatever your experience is. Maybe you're having a very specific, clear experience. Maybe it's a bit fuzzy around the edges. Both is fine. If it is at all fuzzy and you want to know more, you can simply have that intention. Show me more clearly. Let me understand more clearly. And take another breath here. And now as you connect to this area of your life, this theme or question, if it had a sound, what sound would it sound like? Maybe there'd be a tone, music, words, a rhythm, even a melody. If there was a sound associated with this area of your life, what sound would it be? Again, just be with your breath, be in that open space, curiosity, willing to listen with empathy, with compassion. And take another breath here. As you connect with this area of your life, if this area of your life had a sensation associated with it, maybe a sensation in the area of your body, the area of your field, what would that sensation be? And again, just be connected to your breath. Be open to listen and see what drops in. Maybe this sensation might be soft and subtle, or immediate and obvious. Just be with that place of listening. It may even change slightly as you listen. More might come. And take another breath here. And if this area of your life, this question, add an emotion associated with it. If an emotion was to arise, what would that emotion be? This could be many emotions or one clear emotion. It might be comfortable or uncomfortable. Now you're just being a witness to your experience, curious, and connecting to your breath. Another breath here. And if you could reach out and touch this area of your life, what would it feel like? Would it be soft, hard, hot, cool, solid, gooey? What would it feel like to reach out and touch this area of your life? And take another breath here. And as you connect to this area of your life, this question, this theme, just be curious and see if there is a taste associated with it. Maybe it's a taste you recognize, a very specific flavor. Maybe it's a sense of a sweet or a sour, savory or a salty. And again, just be curious. Just had a taste. What would it taste like? Is your mouth watering in anticipation? And if this area of your life had a smell, what would it smell like? Again, maybe one you recognize, maybe a general sense. Again, just being curious, being open. We've been taking a tour through your subtle senses. So just take a moment to thank and appreciate yourself for this journey through a 360-degree intuition of your world as it is right now, just from simply listening as a witness, someone with empathy, with curiosity, a little smile on your face as you thank yourself, and slowly come back to your room and space.
I really enjoyed that, thank you. That was really good. I really liked what I saw, but I'm not going to share.
I have to say right now, Caroline is giggling in the background.
That was wonderful, thank you, I really enjoyed it. But it tasted of peaches, that was interesting.
Tasted of peaches?
Yeah, it was lovely. Anyway.
It's curious about it is it breaks up the story. So for some of the people who are listening in, they might have got very clear things, of just like lightning bolt insight of, oh my goodness, that's how I feel about this thing. For other people, they might have started to get a language of intuition they're not yet familiar with. So, for example, very bright colours might have come to you, images and symbols, which is how actually our subconscious works, is through symbol and meaning, that might not make full sense to you yet, but you might want to go and research and understand. And the purpose of kind of taking this journey is to defragment a story which has probably been holding you in that 5% universe for whether that's a week, a month, a year, 10 years. And what we're doing is defragmenting and tapping into a deeper language of intuition, which is beyond those simple words and goes into our full sensory experience as a spiritual, beautiful human being.
How wonderful. It does really take me back, I have to admit. I'm absolutely sure there'll be some people out there listening. Well, I didn't get anything, and I have to share about mine because I was brought up by a fairly vicious mother, shall we say, bless her. And the voice in my head was really, really cruel. So you can imagine when I came to listen to my intuition, what I got was, you're rubbish, this is never going to happen for you. You're making that up. And, I've been psychic most of my life, and I could hear what somebody else was saying, but I could never hear what I was saying. And I remember when I went to do the Angel Week in Hawaii with Doreen Virtue, at the beginning of the week, I just didn't believe it. So I went and stood on Pele, which, for those of you who don't know, that is a Hawaiian volcano. And Pele is a very fearsome, strong warrior goddess. And everybody was saying to me that the only thing you shouldn't do is, take your shoes off and stand on the volcano. So the first thing I did was march up there, take my shoes off, stand on the volcano and say, whatever it is that is stopping me from believing what you're telling me, because I know that my ego is in the way, and I'm really struggling to believe what I'm getting, even though people are saying I'm spot on or that the message is really important to them. I just didn't believe it in any way. I want it done by the end of this week. Oh my Lord. I had more tears in 1 week. I had to let go of who I thought I was, what I thought my place was in the family, some really ancient stuff, some really recent, it was so painful. But by the time I went home, I was like, actually, I'm not too bad at this. It was phenomenal. And I didn't consciously say, well, actually, I'm not too bad at this. But it was like a couple of months later, I was like, do you know what? I haven't got that really nasty voice in my head saying you're rubbish. So I think I share that to encourage those out there who are listening, who just have that really critical voice in your head. It does take some work on yourself and some... you don't have to be as dramatic as I was, but that's my personality and I can't be anybody else, but it was a good story. So, but you can really just start to believe in the messages. And what I write in my articles about angels, for example, if we're talking about angels rather than your intuition, but sometimes they can be almost the same thing. If it's kind and loving and like a warm hug, it's more than likely not your ego. If it's cold, means that you're chasing money and power and greed and, changes every 10 seconds and is always about the shiniest subject, then that's probably your ego. And you can start to discern between the two. And do you really think your soul would be telling you to go and get a brand new Porsche, for example? That would be something I would share with you. Do you really think, they pick out on material stuff? No, your soul is all about truth and wisdom and love and compassion and, all those really big words that when you don't understand them and they're thrown around, you're like, well, I know. But actually, they really, that to me, that's when I'm listening to my intuition, it's like a warm hug. I can't explain it any other way because it's about me and my soul.
How I would understand that, interesting, is lovely to hear you share that, because firstly, the only way that ego can exist is if it can identify itself as a certain thing. And in order to identify itself as a certain thing, it needs other things which it is not. So, it is not intuitive according to that inner mother of yours, or it is not certain things, and so it creates a huge amount of separation, which creates inner conflict, which means that we have all of these inner voices. Now, seeing as you mentioned Pele and Hawaii, one of the there's a few things that came out of that. One of them that I come back to often before I do any work is we want to come back to this whole, the inner whole, this unity. And the Hawaiian practice of Ho'oponopono is a really beautiful one, and incredibly deep, incredibly profound. So if you are feeling those inner critic voices come up or other voices, then I'd encourage you to use this following kind of formula as a deep meditation actually to go through, which is I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And really, now I know that might sound weird to do that with your inner critic, but actually that is the healing journey. Your inner critic is coming up, which is saying, it's got this is what's here to heal. And actually that healing is your next step forward on your intuitive journey. I call To ignore that, I would say, is the dam of denial.
Okay.
So the dam is the thing which stops our flow. It causes a drought in some places and a flood in others. And what we want to do is to release that dam of denial through love, through empathy, through understanding. And that is the doorway to intuition. And we can get incredibly sensitive and intuitive. So again, for me, sacred sites, sacred land, such as I've also been on Pele banks as well, is very, very powerful. And my intuition is an immense guide for me at these sacred sites. And also what I encourage other people to do as well, because we're all taking our own journey to these sites with our own connection to these places. It's not anyone else's connection. We're in a dance with this place, in a constant conversation with the whole universe. So far we've been talking about, which I think is good, practical intuition in our lives, but this skill of deep listening. And what I took you through is something called 360-degree listening, intuitive listening, which I use as a starting point, a foundation for it. But we can apply that with everything. So as you go out in your days, if you want to talk to a beautiful, beautiful tree that you've always really connected to, then you can also work with this process of just listening. As I connect to this tree, what would I feel, sense, hear on all of these different levels? And you might also find that certain ones of those senses were much stronger than you for others. So for example, you're like, what's she talking about on smell? I have absolutely no idea what she's talking about, but I can hear that like it was a bell next to me. And so you'll find you have these anchor senses which are going to give you a way into your intuition, one that you can trust and hear clearly. And so I'd encourage you to explore that and see where it takes you. Oh, one other thing I wanted to say.
Go on.
Sorry, Caroline.
No.
Your power of intention sounds like it's very strong. If you can create that in a week of huge change from Pele.
No, I do short, sharp shocks.
Short, sharp.
Which sometimes I really, really regret when I'm in it, but that's my personality. I just want to say to everyone listening, please do connect with me on Facebook. My page is Spiritual Growth Tools there. It would be lovely to have you on there. The other thing that you just brought to mind, I do have articles on my website, spiritualgrowthtools.co.uk. One of them is, I can't say it, I'm actually dyslexic, and that word, I cannot say it, whatever it is. Anyway, I wrote an article about it, and I find it really difficult to say every time I have to write it, but I know there's an article about that on spiritualgrowthtools.co.uk, so do go and have a look. I wanted to bring us to, we have a few minutes left, sacreddestinations.org. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about why you take people to where you go and what you do there?
Wow. Yes. My feeling and my sense on sacred sites is that we have a relationship to them, and they're just as alive and conscious as us, and they're just as willing and wanting to dance with us, to talk with us, to have a conversation with us. And we are in relationship with these places. And as such, we as individuals are drawn to different places at different times because of that relationship. And those relationships can have many different aspects to them. Sometimes they're about healing. Sometimes they're about remembrance. Sometimes they're about coming back to a place which has been so deeply held in our hearts that we just have a love connection with these places. There's many different ways. Now, Sacred Destinations is something that kind of unfolded 3 years ago, where I ended up taking people to about five different sacred pilgrimage travels over a year to places like Mount Shasta in California, to the Bosnian pyramids, to the island goddess sites, to Avalon, to Stonehenge, to all of these places. And my discovery, and I mean, I love it. We both have a passion for travel. It just opens our heart, it opens our field of awareness, all of these connections on so many levels, on a very vibratory energy level. These places are high energy vortexes. They bring us into our greatest possibility. They expand us hugely. And they also, what I found is they just naturally open us. It's the most joyful thing to take people to all of these sites because it's so effortless. Everyone just opens and expands into themselves with such amazing naturalness. And so just with that exploring of our intuition, exploring of listening, people are hearing things like nothing else, and this incredible group dynamic happens. And to be honest, it just kind of feels like a bit of a party all the way. Although actually, a lot of it is we are working with on a very deep level of meditation, but it just arises such a joy in me to even think about it. Actually,
so totally up my street. I really don't know why I haven't done this myself. Anyway, that's next project. So, where are you going to this year? Have you got anything planned?
Yes, we're doing a goddess land journey in Ireland, going to all the cairns and stone circles. There's a beautiful feminine energy which is so rich in that landscape and calling us, and for me it's a real journey into the ancient mother this year is the theme. And also going to Avalon, which is the land of Avebury, Glastonbury, that whole area in the UK. And that, for me, has been told is a lineages of light tour. And people are called really in an inauguration of light. So we'll be doing private ceremonies in Stonehenge. And to the amazing Bosnian pyramids, this will be my 4th year back to the Bosnian pyramids. I can categorically say they're the most amazing live archaeological dig I've ever been on, with 500 volunteers there every year, and the most profound, beautiful, pure energy in those healing tunnels. There's lots of information on all the blogs and things at sacreddestinations.org if you want to know more. I could go on forever about these sites, so I'm trying to keep it short right now.
Okay, but please do go and look it up. I've followed Clare's tours on Facebook, watching and thinking, why aren't I on that one? But anyway, so it's www.sacreddestinations.org. I highly recommend that you connect with Clare if she's talking about things that inspire you. The other place that you can connect with Clare is clarerussell.com. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about the other services that you offer?
Yeah, so clarerussell.com goes to the heart, I suppose, of what I offer, which is all about this inner connection, and how everything that we see and experience our world comes from the subtle platform of consciousness first, and understanding how that works from the very direct and practical of living stress-free through to the hugely esoteric principles of how energy works. One thing that you will find on there, the 360-degree intuitive listening that I quickly took you through here, is available as free audio downloads on the site that you can take away for yourself and continue to practice with.
Great. Okay, that's perfect. Well, anything else that you're working on now you'd like to share, or that's quite a lot, I have to say. But is there anything else you'd like to share?
I think for me right now, connecting to our wholeness, our oneness, it's something that's come up as a theme in this call, so I'm considering that now as to what that's about. I would say that there's another area that I'm looking at, which is called personal transformation, how to vibrationally shift your reality. And it's based on energy principles that starts from that place of wholeness, oneness, unity. And I just encourage you, wherever you are right now, to consider what that would look like in your life. So Caroline and I were having a discussion afterwards. Earlier. Caroline did a beautiful angel reading for me, and she was highlighting to me that normally quite accurately, that I'm quite a doer. I'm quite active, and that my angel guides were wishing that I would also have some more stillness and some relaxation in that. And this is something that I come back to is very important. We're all in our lives, running our lives, but actually the heart of it is who we are as a being. And especially at this time of year, when there's a number of New Year's resolutions that might be set, that might be hanging over your head, or they might be ambitiously carrying you forward, I would encourage you to give yourself space to consider, what are these qualities of my being that I really want to bring into my world? And allow yourself to be that. This is a much bigger subject. I'm just touching on it now. But really, who we are comes from these qualities of being, whether that is for you stillness, love, truth was one of the ones that we were talking about earlier as well. And those qualities of being are what will then provide that platform of very beautiful, clear, effortless intention that will carry you forward in your actions, rather than your actions having to do a lot to take you back to that place of being who you were in the first place. So I encourage you to work with that. And yeah.
Okay, well, it's been an absolute joy and pleasure to have you. I really enjoyed the 360-degree intuitive exercise that you took us through. I hope that the listeners found that useful. So I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you very much. I'd be more than happy to have you back on, as we touched on maybe one or two subjects. I know there's about 7 or 8 that we could talk about, so let's arrange that for later in the year. But just want to say thank you so much for coming on today, Claire. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Caroline, as well, and Spiritual Growth Tools for hosting it. I love your way and style of creating such a beautiful conversation and engagement.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Okay, so listeners, next show is on January the 28th at the same time, 7 p.m. GMT, and my guest is Jaginder Bhola. He and his wife run the Tree of Life in Birmingham. I'm really looking forward to talking to him. He hosts a lot of events, and he has a magazine and an online magazine, and he has a lot of spiritual speakers, and there's a big community there, completely dedicated to spiritual growth. So I think it'll be a really interesting call next week. So thank you so much for listening to us on Spiritual Growth Tools on the radio. If you'd like to find out about Body Talk and how it can help you heal physically and emotionally, or book an angel reading, or discover the other products and services, please do go to the website. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll always be kept informed about the upcoming shows that you will not want to miss. I can't speak today. Stay safe, and I hope you find the tools you need to grow with grace this week.
Thank you for listening to Spiritual Growth Tools live on the radio. For more information, go to spiritualgrowthtools.co.uk.